It's 6 o'clock. News 10 starts now.
3 hours till President Clinton delivers his State of the Union, with the nation questioning the state of the White House after that alleged presidential union with an intern. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Brennan.
And I'm Elisa Streeter. The address to the joint session of Congress will be watched by a television audience of millions.
And the reality is, most people will tune in to hear if he says anything about that scandal, although the president is not expected to. But the specter of Monica Lewinsky will shadow the State of the Union. So should the president just forget it, or should he fight back? Steve Ammerman is live in Albany to look into this a little further. Steve?
Jim and Elisa, we're here at the Palladium Bowl. We've been making the rounds going all over the place. A few people are starting to show up here tonight for League Bowl, and they're going to probably have the TV screens on. People are going to be watching in bars, hotels, restaurants, you name it, at home to see exactly what the president is going to say, to see if he stands by his story. And like you said, this is probably going to be one of the most highly watched State of the Union speeches and one of the most anticipated speeches of Clinton's career.
Yes, I will be.
Would you normally be watching?
No, not if he wasn't on trial, I wouldn't be.
They're tuning in to listen to the issues, but more importantly, to hear what the president says or does not say about this latest scandal.
Just to keep the country up to date on what's really going on.
I don't think that there's anything new that he could tell us tonight. I think that we're all just going to have to sit and wait to see what happens in the courts.
The president is known as a good communicator, and many expect him to be ready and up to the challenge tonight. University at Albany political science professor Helen DeFossis says it's unfortunate the Lewinsky scandal is taken away from real issues, but says there isn't a better forum to clear the air.
I would make some statement in the beginning about it, and I've seen politically troubled officials do this before, and then the audience can sort of take a deep breath and relax and follow him with the rest of his address.
The head of the College of St. Rose Communications Department will be watching. She says the president needs to immediately address this scandal and quickly get on to more substantive issues.
This is a chaotic situation just swirling around him, and I think that if he can be forceful and presidential, I think that that's the best approach.
So while most eyes will be on the president, people will also be watching the reaction he gets from Congress and just how accepting they are of his message.
Well, I think with an open mind to hear what he has to say about what is best for the people of this country, and hopefully people will be listening to him as the president of the United States.
Now, Senator Bruno expects everybody to be respectful because he indeed holds the highest office of the land. Let me ask these people, are you going to be watching?
Definitely.
Definitely. How about you? You're going to be watching his speech tonight?
Absolutely.
What are you going to be anticipating?
I would like to hear the State of the Union.
The issues.
The issues, that's it.
And in fact, there are going to be a lot of issues, rightly so. He's expected to talk about child care, education, fixing Social Security, a lot of issues that he feels the country needs to know about. And of course, it all starts tonight at 9 here on TV 10. And of course, we'll have complete coverage coming up at 11. Reporting to you live from Albany, Steve Ammerman, News 10.
Steve, and as the White House suggested, if he doesn't address the scandal, and we're told he will not, that leaves just the issues to be heard tonight. So perhaps people who will be watching will also be listening.
Exactly. Like Helen DeFossis says, though, if people don't hear what they want, they might not be able to concentrate on those issues. So she's hoping he speaks out. Like you said, whether he does or not remains to be seen.
All right, Steve, thank you. We will have complete coverage of the State of the Union here tonight. ABC begins its report at 9 o'clock. They wrap up at 11. Then on News 10 at 11, we will hear what some people from around this region thought of the president's message. And in just a few minutes, Fred LeBrun with his take on the media and the presidential scandal.
In other news, emotional testimony today from a man whose father and 4 other people were brutally killed in what is said to be the worst case ever of road rage. He's asking the state assembly to make aggressive driving a felony crime, make it a misdemeanor to keep another motorist from passing you, leading to more jail time for rage on the road. John McLoughlin joins us live now. John.
Elisa, it's one thing when you listen to the bureaucrats talk about road rage, but it's a completely different thing when you hear it from one of the victims.
He was, in fact, grasping for his life.
Scott Briggs breaks a couple of times telling lawmakers how his 60-year-old father was killed, along with 3 young boys and the driver of their car. A third motorist refusing 3 times to allow the boy's car to pass on a narrow 2-lane road, until it finally smashed head-on into Scott Briggs' father coming the other way, Scott still carrying his dad's blood-stained watch that he was given in the hospital emergency room.
I yelled at him and I said, "Is he dead?" And he shook his head yes. And I completely lost it and broke down.
The Assembly has before it a piece of legislation that would make aggressive driving a whole new category of crime, a felony.
Last October, 62-year-old Robert Price of Knox arrested for allegedly waving at another motorist what turned out to be a replica of a gun. Today, a whole parade of witnesses urging the Assembly to adopt the road rage measure. State Police Superintendent James McMahon saying that aggressive driving causes 2/3 of all fatal accidents.
We define an aggressive driver as someone who operates a motor vehicle in a bold, selfish, or pushy manner with utter disregard for the safety or the rights of other users.
But it was Scott Briggs who seemed to move the lawmakers, explaining how the motorist who refused to allow the car to pass got just 6 months in jail.
He didn't die in an accident. He died in a tragedy and a crime. And that's what people need to realize.
Now, the Senate has its own version of this road rage bill, which is actually pretty close to the Assembly version. So, Elisa, I think there's a very good chance that there's going to be some kind of agreement, some kind of bill on road rage that will finally get to Governor Pataki for his signature.
Well, very moving testimony by Mr. Briggs.
Extremely so.
Yeah. Thank you very much, John. Police say they have arrested the man they say stalked and harassed area elementary school students. The man charged is 35-year-old Scott Rose of 124 Sherman Street in Albany. More charges could be pending. Rose was arrested after an anonymous tip. He is in jail on $25,000 bail. It's now up to an arbitrator to decide if Hoosick Falls bus driver Ed Helgert will keep his job. The hearing wrapped up today. The school superintendent, Nancy Chase, brought Helgert up on formal charges after he decided to pick up a dozen children along Route 22 who were supposed to walk to school. Helgert says he feared for the safety of the kids, and so he picked them up.
A plea bargain today from the man trusted by pet owners to bury their dead animals, but who instead illegally dumped them on a farm in Saratoga Springs. Terry McLoughlin pleaded guilty to defrauding his clients. He was given 6 months in jail, 5 years probation, and is required to donate $25,000 to animal shelters in the capital region. A Fulton County woman is charged with fraud after taking money out of taxpayers' pockets and putting it into her own pocket. Police say 36-year-old Jean Road of Perth filed false reports to get food stamps, Medicaid, and public assistance. The total take, more than $10,000. And stay with us here on News 10 at 6 o'clock. Much more ahead.
Next from the area's #1 evening news team.
This is Fred LeBrun with a few comments on whether the media has gone too far with the president.
Also coming up.
The weather looks interesting for the next 24 hours. A real close call with a storm tonight. I'm Steve Caporizzo. We may miss this one, but we may not miss Fridays.
And later on News 10.
The Snow Queen flies overseas, and our Tracy Egan is there. It's a special Children First you won't want to miss.
Live, Jim Brennan, Elisa Streeter, Chief Meteorologist Steve Caporizzo, Sports Director Dan Murphy. News 10 at 6 o'clock will continue.
We report to you.
News 10 is brought to you by Nationwide Insurance.
More state jobs will be moving from Albany to Troy. State Senate Majority Leader Joseph Bruno making the announcement today. 350 State Health Department workers will move across the Hudson to downtown Troy. Senator Bruno has transferred 1,000 jobs to the Collar City already.
Acting Massachusetts Governor Paul Cellucci has unveiled his budget plan. Cellucci sent the legislature a $19 billion budget. In the proposal, Cellucci calls for a cut to the state income tax. The 1998 plan also calls for spending increases in education, with money going to hire new teachers and build new schools. Many people are saying the media is creating the madness over the presidential sex scandal. Our own Fred LeBrun says the media can't help but create this feeding frenzy. Fred is one man's opinion.
It's critical to understand that we did not create the news in the first place. We did not make up the story about the president and his sexual problems. But we have taken it from point A to point Z endlessly over and over again. The question is, has the media once again gone too far? And I think the answer is a resounding yes. Of course we have. It's another case of the OJ thing. And pardon me, Princess Diana, we just can't let go. It's just too good. It's got sex, it's got power, it's got people in high places, seaminess. It's making the most sophisticated news programs and the lowest common denominator talk show people say the same trashy things, whispering the dirty words they can't talk about. Well, we're going to get a belly full. There's just no way around it, because this is an American democracy where we will just take everything to the extreme. We can't muzzle anybody. We've got that First Amendment thing, and I believe in that, and you should too. If you don't like it, turn it off, because right now the fate of the president, the fate of all of this, including the news and going on, is in the fate is in the hands of the stars, or star, at least, special prosecutor star, Fred LeBrun for News 10.
To respond to Fred, you can call 1-800-88-WTEN or email him at news10fred@news10.com.
On Wall Street today, some good earnings reports from major Dow companies helped fuel a major gain in the blue chip stocks.
Walt Disney and Procter & Gamble both posting gains. The Dow finished the day up 102 points. The Nasdaq up 17 points, wiping out all of yesterday's losses. And take a look at GE.
News 10 is brought to you by the YMCA. Coming up, Chief Meteorologist Steve Caporizzo with your exclusive Doppler weather forecast.
Steve just said, look at GE. It's got to be a record high. And in fact, it is.
It is?
Up 76 1/4.
Too bad I didn't buy it when it was low. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, jumping in now might be a little late.
Hey, want to let you know, a couple weeks ago we had the Winterfest canceled up at Grafton Lakes because of some technical difficulties with the weather. But I have great news. I want to show you something. It is on for this upcoming Saturday. It's the same event, the same activities going on. Ice fishing begins at 5 a.m. and it runs till 9 o'clock. There's a breakfast. There's all kinds of sleigh rides, dog sled rides, snowmobile safety, ice sculptures, ice skating, birds and animals. And I'll be there about 10 o'clock with a weather presentation. So if you have a chance, stop on by this Saturday. About 6 inches of snow on the ground. Tom Conklin tells me things look great. Let's check on the weather tonight. We have mostly cloudy skies, 22 degrees, relative humidity 53% with a light northeast wind. The barometer high, and it's been dry for the most part today. High temperature below normal, 23. Low this morning, 4 above. The record 62 and 23 degrees below zero. Talking about the icebox cold this morning, look at some of these temperatures, 15 to 30 below zero. Northern New England, northern New York, southern Quebec, below zero from the Capital District northward. 2 coldest places, Saranac Lake. Some cars moaning and groaning there this morning, minus 25. In Canaan, Vermont, in the Northeast Kingdom at minus 30. It was 8 below Glens Falls, Whitehall, Rutland. And 15 below Indian Lake, 19 below Newcomb, and 4 below out towards Johnstown and Gloversville this morning. Look at this moisture. Telling you something, I look at this and I start to sweat a little bit because it's going to get close to us, but I think it will stay off to our south. In fact, there'll be some rain and snow through parts of Pennsylvania, and this will be sliding up across southeastern New England. Temperatures 20s to lower 30s, so it is warmer tonight. Here are the weather watches, 20s from Westerlo to Marge Rafaldi and West Hurley, where it's 30. Upper 20s, Berkshire County, 19, Bolton Landing, 18 tonight in Fairfield. Here's that storm spinning around the southeast. As long as it spins in the southeast, we don't have to worry about it, but it's going to be a biggie. I expect tomorrow This storm will be tracking east-northeastward, expanding, and that means it will brush coastal New England with rain, maybe a little bit of wet snow, and strong gusty winds from the east-northeast at 25 to 40 miles per hour. Thursday, if we're lucky, a little bit of sunshine, but the next weather system swings on in. There'll be some colder weather and probably some snow here late Thursday night into Friday. Flurries tonight. Tomorrow morning clouds, a few flurries. If we're lucky, a little bit of afternoon sun, 31 to 36. Lots of clouds, 17 to 23 for tomorrow night. Thursday becoming mostly cloudy. Late in the day, a rain or snow shower. Not a big deal, 33 to 38. Vermont and the Berkshires, scattered flurries, 10 to 15. Chance of morning flurries tomorrow, then mostly cloudy, 30 to 35. Here's your 5-day forecast. Chance at mostly light snow Friday, 32. Right now, a cold shot for the weekend, 29 Saturday, and lower 30s on Sunday with dry weather. So the weekend looks okay if you have outdoor plans.
All right. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Remember the movie Babe?
Yes, I do. Oink, oink, oink.
The pig thought it was a sheepdog.
No, bark, bark, bark.
Okay. We've got a case of life imitating art here.
Only this time, it's a cow, a moose, who thinks she's a cow. Or, yeah, vice versa. With more on this cow-fused moose, Alexandra Lee reports to you from Whitehall.
At first glance, the Hollister farm in the town of Whitehall looks like any other dairy farm, with cows resting quietly in the fields. But wait a minute.
Holy cow.
Hey, that's a moose.
Oh, different people come along, ask us when we're going to start milking it.
Dairy farmer David Hollister discovered his surprise guest 2 weeks ago when he went out to check up on his cows.
She showed up, and she's been right here within 500 yards of where she is now since. She hasn't gone anywhere.
No one can quite figure out where this female moose came from yet, but the State Environmental Conservation Department is now keeping a close eye on this wild animal. They say she may be young, about a year old, but she already weighs in at 600 pounds.
Well, there's not a lot of moose in New York State, and I believe she's just going to be hanging around, and I think when she gets a little older, she may take off.
Until that happens, Hollister says his wife is already bonded with their newest pet.
She wanted to call her maybe, so maybe she'll stay and maybe she won't, I guess.
So what do the cows have to say about their new friend? I guess they're moose to it by now. Up to 100 moose watchers a day have been driving up to the farm just off County Route 9, folks like Jerry Manny.
I've been here about 4 times, and I just keep coming back because it's so nice to see such a magnificent animal.
I like having her around, as long as she doesn't give us any trouble. Just another animal in amongst the herd now. Maybe we ought to go to raising moose, huh?
Reporting to you, Alexandra Lee, News 10.
Well, the State Environmental Conservation Department has tagged the moose and will now be tracking it for their records. It looks like she's just looking to hang out.
Hey, we all get lost. Yeah. Dan Murphy, who thinks he's Dan Murphy, will be here when we come back.
Oh, that's good. He's not confused. The Spreewell hearing actually is underway, and all-star reserves are announced. And later, Tracy Egan takes us on a trip to London for our special Children First.
News 10's Children First is brought to you by Price Chopper, Raymore and Flanagan, and the Times-Union. Next, News 10 Sports with Dan Murphy.
What price coaching the choke, I was going to say. Choking the coach.
Yeah, the choke heard around the world getting relived today out in Portland. Both sides have begun stating their cases in front of an arbitrator. John Farrick, he also happens to be the dean of the Fordham University Law School. At stake, not only the playing future of one Latrell Sprewell, but the way sports contracts are written and enforced in the future. Sprewell's attorney and the Players Association are looking to get Sprewell's contract reinstated and the one-year suspension for attacking coach P.J. Carlesimo immediately revoked, while NBA attorneys are arguing the league has the right to void the contract and ban the player.
I think it's extremely important for players, especially for those players who sign contracts with the understanding that they're guaranteed. If this becomes a precedent, it means that basically no one has a guaranteed contract because everybody becomes vulnerable.
Guaranteed no matter what you do. A ruling should come later this week. Next month, the NBA All-Star Game will be played at New York's Madison Square Garden, without a single member of the New York Knicks in uniform. The league has announced its reserves for the February 8th game, and there's not a Knick in sight. However, the Celtics get a player on the Eastern squad. Antoine Walker, one of 7 reserve named by the coaches today. He's in the top 10 in the league in both scoring and rebounding. And New Jersey Nets have an all-star this year. Center Jason Williams makes the club. Other Eastern reserves, Glenn Rice, Reggie Miller, Rick Smits, Tim Hardaway, and Steve Smith. While Western reserves include the Lakers, Nick Van Exel, and Eddie Jones. Now, this means the Lakers will have 4 all-stars. That's the first time that's happened since 1983. Locally, the Siena men hosting Marist tonight. The Saints out to snap their 3-game losing streak. Story of that game and the night in high school hoop for you, of course, at 11. Football news. Bishop McGinn standout running back Mike Grasso has accepted a full athletic scholarship to the University of Rhode Island. Grasso was recruited by over 25 1AA schools, including Cornell, Bucknell, and the University of Buffalo. Pete Sampras out at the Australian Open. He has been upset, and the Denver Broncos held their Super Bowl parade and rally. Some of that tonight at 11.
All right, Murph.
All right. Well, last night we showed you the London debut of The Snow Queen, put on by the Capital Region's very own New York State Theatre Institute. News 10's Tracy Egan is in London, and she shows us how the theater group is making an effort to put children first.
The day before the Snow Queen's opening, I went to St. Albans Elementary School in East Central London to see firsthand how NIST director Chris Boyce prepares her young audience to see the musical.
There's one message I'm going to use a couple of times probably, and that's freeze, please. What do you think I'm asking you to do if I say freeze, please? Yes, stop and freeze as if you were an ice statue. Are there ice statues in the Snow Queen? Yes, there are. She has a garden of ice statues.
Why do you teach the kids about the tools that an actor has?
I think it's important for them to understand that they have the same tools, and that if an actor uses those tools of his emotions or his mind, imagination, and his body, that they can also creatively use those tools, whether it be to think of a song or create a poem. They can also see and appreciate the work of the actor on the stage, and that it indeed is a craft. We're going to limit you to being able to use your head, your shoulders, your arms, and your hands, but please don't use your feet, all right? Ready? Go.
Because of these exercises, the kids are going to enjoy the play even more. They will remember how they moved like the crows, shivered like Gerda, and stayed very still like the frozen Kai.
This kind of activity means that they're thinking for themselves and they're actually using their own imagination, and they're being given activities to do, but it's their own interpretation of what's going on. And there's no right answers. Everything they do is good.
When you do things that you know you're good at, how does it make you feel?
Wonderful.
And to this group, dedicated to educating students through entertainment, that's proof that they found a great way to put children first. Tracy Egan, News 10, reporting from London.
And Tracy will be home later this week, and she'll share a lot more stories with us then.
Cooped up in prison.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. World News Tonight comes your way next.
Good night.
More people now watch ABC 10 than any other station for their local evening news. News 10, we report to you.